Welcome. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the life of Linda Cortez. I'm Shane. I was blessed to call her my grandma for my lifetime. And tonight we are obviously going to be doing things different than we normally would under other circumstances, but we're so glad that you get to be part of this because if you're watching this, you played some role in my grandma's life, and so we are excited to gather as those who loved her and celebrate the incredible life that she lived and the great impact that she had on those around her. We're going to get started tonight with a poem that was selected by her sister Belia, and that's going to be read by Belia's daughter, Margaret.
Petals of her life, as beautiful as a rose to see, was her life she lived so gracefully. She made things precious by her touch. Her selfless love lives on in each of us. The petals of her life fell one by one, each a gift of her heart till there was none. Yet her radiance blooms once again in fields of glory with no end.
Let's pray. God, we thank you. We thank you that we have this opportunity to come together as those who knew and loved Linda. And whether we're in person or digital, whether we're watching it live or we're watching it later, God, I thank you that we were blessed to know this amazing woman. God, I thank you personally for placing her into my life. I thank you for the 28 years that I got to call her grandma. Lord, I thank you for the lifetime of lessons and memories and joy that she contributed to my life and the life of so many others. Lord, I pray that tonight you would be honored. Jesus, I pray that tonight would be a celebration of my grandma's life, but more importantly, a celebration of your victory over death. God, I thank you that we don't have to mourn the way the rest of the world mourns. God, I thank you that while there is sadness, while there is missing, that I don't have to experience that hopelessness because I know that she's with you. And God, we look forward to the day where we can be reunited in your presence, where we can come together and worship you as a complete family, as a complete group of friends, as a complete church once again. Lord, we give tonight to you. We pray you'd be glorified, and we pray this in your name, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Now, we're going to hear from loved ones who knew her best. And they're going to try to put into words what made this woman so incredible, how she was able to make such a lasting impact, how she was able to fill so many lives with joy.
Okay, where do we start?
On August 5th, 1942, in Orange, California, Linda Helen Puentes was born. She was the youngest of 4 children born to Felix and Margarita Puentes. When she was only 3 years old, she lost her mother to leukemia, and being the youngest, she went to stay with her paternal aunt, Carlota Luna. Carlota eventually adopted her and raised her as an only child, though she remained close to her siblings, Raul, Belia, and Michael, for her whole life. Eventually, her father remarried Juanita Puentes, and she gained step-siblings, including Esther and Mario.
Linda's father, Felix, married my mom when I was 11 or 12. That's when I met my beautiful new stepsister, Linda. The early 60s were a more simple and innocent time. Linda was in her early teens, and she was not in a hurry to grow up. As she grew into a lovely young lady, She had many friends at Valencia High School in Placentia, California. She was an excellent student and enrolled in a program to study nursing. She would volunteer as a nursing student at a local hospital, and I'm going to miss her more than anything because I loved her so very much.
She was raised as an only child, and I think that really affected her, and she wanted to make sure that our family was very close. With all the tragedy that she had, losing her birth mother at a very young age, being raised kind of as an only child, losing her mother and her father and her brothers, and just a lot of tragedy in her life. You wouldn't have known it because she just embraced life fully.
Little did she know that passion for life would lead her to a fateful encounter with a drunken soldier, and a night he couldn't remember would turn into a lifetime they'd never forget.
Over 50 years ago, I happened to go with my friends to a club. I was in the military. And we just went to have a good time, dance and drink and all that stuff. And then I noticed a girl that had a blue dress and she looked real good. So I went over and asked her if she wanted to dance because she looked like she was dancing, all the time. And she says, okay. So we danced. And then we danced again, another one. So the night went on, and I didn't think of anything. But at the end, I happened to bump into her. She was alone, and I says to her, "How you doing?" She says, "Fine. Would you like to have a date?" Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can or not. Come on. You want to have a date, don't you? Okay. But I didn't even know who she was. So somebody gave me a phone number. To tell you the truth, I don't know if she did or who. But somebody gave me a phone number and I left. About 4 days later, I look in my pockets and I put out a piece of paper. It was a girl. And I didn't even know who it was or nothing. So I called and, I says, I have your phone number. Oh, yeah. And then she says to me, we started talking, as a matter of fact. We got along. Then I asked her for a date. And we went on a date. The thing that happened, I was nervous to go because I did not know who it was. I go into the club, there's about 100 people around, and I stood like in the corners, more or less, on the side. And my eyes were going all around because I did not know the girl. I had never seen, maybe I did. And then a girl out of all of the tables and everything was staring at me. I says, that must be it, But she wasn't dressed. She had working clothes, So I saw her and she saw me. She smiled and I smiled. And that was it. We started dating more and more and more. I was supposed to leave the military in about 3 days. I was from New Mexico. You know, say that was the thing, you know. So, you know, I didn't know if she wanted to go or not, but anyway. Everything turned out to be fine for the next 50 years. And that's more or less how I met her. I told you I had 2 or 3 days left, and I was going back to New Mexico. So I didn't know what to do, you know. So a night before I was going to leave, I called her, and I says, you know, I'm going back to New Mexico. He says, I know. And well, I don't want it to end like this. Will you marry me? Just like that. And she says, yes. She didn't hesitate.
Okay. How long did you date before you proposed?
Oh, about 1, 2, 3, 2 or 3 weeks.
And then how much longer till you got married?
Ah,
And then how much longer till you got married after you were engaged?
oh, about 4 days.
I never knew that.
4 or 5 days, something like that.
So you had only known her like 3 weeks before you got married?
Yes. It happens. Well, if I wouldn't have met her, I was going to leave. I had a girlfriend over there too. That's why I knew if I left, I would never see her again. Hey, I had girls.
How did you know Grandma was the one?
I didn't know that. I was drunk.
So pretty much whoever showed up who belonged to that number, you were going to end up with them.
Where?
Whatever number was in your pocket, that was going to be the girl.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was from the Lord because that paper I didn't see my pocket for a week, about a week. Then I pulled it out. It's a phone number.
Mom and Dad loved doing things, you know, going away for weekends, traveling. He indulged her silliness and her wanderlust that she just wanted to go away all the time.
I remember when her and Dad celebrated their vow renewal. What was that? Their
30th?
30th? And they were had Elvis sing at their
At the Adventure Inn.
Adventure Inn.
I can, yeah.
Is the minister here, Rick?
Very sweet. You have my life complete, and I love you so.
For their 50th, they went away to this adventure. 30th, they went away to this Adventure Inn, and I just remember it like a fever dream because each bedroom is a different theme, and I was like too little to understand what was going on. So there was a room that looked like a jungle and like a cave, and there was another room that had a car in it, and there was like another room. I don't remember any. Like, I just remember bits of it, and it's like a fever dream. Like I was like. I don't remember any of that.
It was actually the same room. The car is in the jungle.
No.
I don't remember this at all.
I don't remember Elvis.
I don't remember any of this.
Like, someone's gonna need to show me pictures or something.
And then they had a bedroom that was 50s themed, and the bed was actually a car that they had cut out the center and put a bed in. That they thought that was one of the coolest.
Is that my convertible or what?
It's your bed.
Oh,
you're kidding.
This is a roof?
Yes.
You're kidding. Oh my God. Oh, this is a bed. Oh my goodness.
Hey, we're gonna drive. We're cruising tonight. Oh, it's just like the end of Grease when they drive up.
She just loved doing fun stuff like that.
Things that were different.
They were inseparable.
They really showed just unconditional love. That no matter how old you get or no matter what life throws your way, that they always had each other's back and they always still loved each other.
They were together literally 24/7 for the last 27 years. He could not go anywhere without her. And most of her days were just being with him here at the house.
We always had these places we would go together, and we would sit and just enjoy their company and the two of them together, you know, and just admired them as not only individually but just as a couple, you know, and the way they would tease each other and the way they would make us laugh. And so we just really enjoyed the time that we got to spend with them.
My grandparents really modeled what a marriage should be, from the time I was old enough to notice. They showed that marriage is so much more than just a feeling. There were so many times they were so mad at each other, they frustrated each other so much, they drove each other up the wall. But their marriage was never based in a feeling. It was based in a commitment, in a decision to love. And so, growing up, and then when I was older and I got the chance to live with them for a couple years, I saw on a day in and a day out basis of how they chose to love each other, even when it was hard, even when there were medical issues, even when they were driving each other crazy. No matter what was going on in their life, no matter how they felt, they made the decision to love each other.
My mom was a yeller, if you didn't know. She'd raise her voice, more so in the early days, but her and my dad would be in an argument and she would just be going and he'd be at it. And I am not kidding, 2 seconds later, I would hear him say, "So where do you want to go to dinner?" "I don't know. Why should we go?" Like it was done. You said what was upsetting you and it was done. And I think that has helped probably all of us in our lives just get through difficult times. Say you're angry, say how you hurt, say you're sorry, you move on. Your sisters, your family. And I think that was a wonderful lesson that we hopefully have passed on to the kids.
It wasn't long before Linda and Domingo's family started to grow, and the foundation they laid in their marriage would blossom into a loud, fun, crazy family of 5.
We grew up in a loud home. It was full of a lot of laughter and a lot of yelling. Mostly my mom and Charlotte. But it was a fun home.
I don't remember that.
That was one of the things. Mom was always big on girl time, which since we were only girls really just meant Dad wasn't with us. But we had a lot of girl time and girl activities and girl fun.
Okay, you sing for Dad. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas
I think one of my fondest memories is we went on vacation somewhere. I was probably in high school, and the place we were staying was literally right on the beach. And my mom made a comment. She said, "I have always wanted to run down the beach in my nightgown." And so I said, "Well, let's do it." And so her and I put on our pajamas and we literally just ran up and down. My dad is sitting outside watching us, just going, okay, this is enough, let's go. Like it was cold. And I fondly remember us holding, oh, I'm going to cry.
I remember
Finally
that.
holding hands and just giggling hysterically, running back and forth by the water. Our toes were getting wet. And yeah, that was probably one of my fondest fun memories of my mom. She enjoyed life like that. I don't know a whole lot of moms that would let you miss school to go just have fun, and that was very common. That the time together was more important than one afternoon that we would miss a class or two.
She was a complete prankster. She loved doing pranks on people. One of her favorite of when we were growing up was to put a broom against the bathroom door, and she'd put a wig or a stuffed animal or something big on the broom so that when you opened the bathroom door, it would fly in at you.
She loves scary movies. That was
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, we grew up
That
on
was
scary movies.
Our thing
Yes.
was the scary movies. And
Yes, I remember one time, Carolyn, you had a sleepover for your birthday, and she was taking us all to a scary movie. It was like you were like 12 or something.
No, we were younger, I think.
Yes, and even like one of the girls even stayed home with my dad.
She didn't want to go.
She didn't want to go see a scary movie.
But I was able to see rated R movies as long as they were only scary.
Yes, scary negated the rated R
so much makes sense now.
rating. We grew up on those. Even now, if there is a scary movie coming out around Mother's Day or her birthday, we would always be there. That would be what she would want to do.
She was always dieting. One of my favorite stories is about her favorite candy, Rocky Road. If you've ever seen it, it's a red block. And she was starting a diet, and I remember her giving me the candy. Why she had it, I don't know. But she said, no matter what I do not give me this candy bar until I've met my goal. And I said, okay. I hit it. I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks went by, and she came and she was like, okay, I really need that on Rocky Road. And I said, did you meet your goal, like 25 pounds? She said, no, but I'm pretty close. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. You told me to promise not to give it to you. And she went in my room. She literally like pushed me out of the way, went in my room. She's opening all my drawers, looking under. She found it. And I quickly snatched it from her hand. And I said, no, you made me promise. I am not kidding. I want to say like half an hour. She chased me around the entire house. She ended up every now and then getting a hold of it, and I would pull it back. The thing was like mush by the time we were done. And I said, fine. And I handed it to her all mangled, marshmallow coming. And she ate the candy. Like, I think that was one of my funniest memories of her just eat. She goes, I am craving it. Like, and that was okay. But yeah, that was a vivid memory of, I don't know, good or bad, but she chased me around the house for her candy.
So she loved my cornbread. For some reason, she said I made it the best
in the world.
Yeah, I don't know why. But one time I accidentally put a cup of salt instead of a cup of sugar. I don't have no idea why. But she was so excited to eat my cornbread. And then she took a bite. I still remember her.
Is she honest?
Yeah, she was like, oh my God, what did you do? It was the funniest thing.
One of the things is Mom was always so insistent that we be close, that we be a close family, that we be close sisters. She would say that your sisters are the only people that are going to be there that your sisters are the only ones that are going to be there from birth to death.
We were not allowed to not speak to each other. We were allowed to get angry. We could let it all out and say whatever we wanted to say to each other, but then it was done. You didn't have a choice not to love, not to continue a relationship with your sister. My mom wanted me to get something off of her nightstand. And she said, oh, it's in the drawer. And I opened the drawer and I took out what I thought was what she was looking for. Took it back and she said, oh, no, that's not it. That's my journal. And I said, oh, I didn't know you keep a journal. She said, yeah, you can read a little bit if you want. And I read not too many pages, but it was letters, journaling, comments, thoughts that she had. And I got to see into her heart. I got to see how she prayed for me. I got to see how she put in details the things that I was struggling with. The same with my sisters and my dad. But I realized I had always known that she was a praying mom. But when I read that journal, I realized how much she got it. The conversations she had with me weren't just about me sharing. It was her finding out how I needed prayer, where I was weak, where I was strong. And that impacted me, that I had never known how much she loved me and how much she prayed for me. And when I became a mom, I've tried to do the same thing, kind of journal down how I'm praying for my kids, what I think they need. And I hope that I make as much of an impact on my kids as she did on us.
Without missing a beat, Linda transformed overnight from a mother to a grandmother, a role that she was born to play.
When my mom lost her mom, she was Carolyn's age. And I was Kaylee, my middle daughter's age. And I remember my mom took it so hard, and she loved her mom. That was her best friend. And I know when I had my first child, Shane, she came alive again. She was laughing and joking, and she was her old self. And I remember her saying that Shane literally saved her life. And from that moment on, when Shane was born, she was a grandma and was probably the best grandma I've ever known. My grandma was wonderful and she had a good example, but my mom took it to such deeper levels. She would play with the kids. She, I know, has nurtured my children. She's held them. Like I said, she babysat a lot when Rick and I would do ministry. She would keep them for weekends and sometimes weeks at a time, and never complaining, always willing to volunteer, always there when I needed her to help.
She loved to be around them. We both did. We took you guys everywhere around there. You remember Chuck E. Cheese? Every week we used to take you to Chuck E. Cheese.
So we moved to Reno from California in 1996. At that time, Shane would have been 4, Kaylee was 2, and Corinda was 5 months, and we didn't have Camber yet. And Rick had to finish up work back home, and so my mom and dad came with me. They stayed with me for a couple weeks, helping me until Rick came. And then maybe we didn't see each other, a little over a month. They came for Thanksgiving, and they stayed all through Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and then they were going to go back home. And before they went back home, we found out that I was pregnant with our 4th baby. And so they volunteered to take Corinda with them because I had been bed rested with my other pregnancies. And so she would have been, I don't know, 11 months, something like that. And so they took her back to California with them. And I think they kept her like a month. And then they were going to come back and bring her. And when they came, they basically said it was a mean trick to play on them. And how could they have this beautiful baby, grandbaby, by themselves for a month and then send her back home and have no grandchildren around them? And so almost immediately they prayed about it. They put their home up for sale. And I want to say it was less than a year that we had lived here that they came and joined us. And have not missed a moment of my kids' lives.
So we, right away, next week we got a van, everybody got in, and we came to Reno. But I worked. That had to be out of the way. So I says, Lord, we're in a bad shape right now. Because Charlotte didn't really want to go because we weren't going. I says, if you want us to go to Reno, open the doors. So I was laid off that week. And we back and we came to Reno.
Because when she decided to make the move to Reno, it's because she couldn't stand being away from her grandkids. She would cry all the time. And finally one day she goes, I'm done. I'm moving. We're selling the house. I can't take it. And she never looked back.
She wasn't just my grandma. She was my first friend. And throughout my entire life, there are very few people in this world that I was closer to than her. And we just had so many memories and so many good times together. I remember when I was young and I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I know that I could go wake her up and she she would make me a peanut butter tortilla, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but she would make it with tortilla on the stove, and we'd stay up past my bedtime just talking and dreaming about the future and what it was going to be like and the things that we were going to do. And we'd go to Chuck E. Cheese, and they'd spend, what could have been my college tuition on me having a fun Saturday at Chuck E. Cheese when I was a kid. And we'd go to Disneyland and hang out and make these incredible memories.
Yeah. How do you describe someone that was so influential from day one? So supportive, went to all of our games, even the Little League games. I'm so sorry.
One of my favorite memories growing up with Grandma was at one point we decided to start collecting dimes. And after a while of collecting them, she's like, what do you want to do with all the dimes? And I said, let's go to Disneyland. She said, okay, we'll do that. And after a while of collecting, obviously we didn't raise enough for tickets, but on our next family trip to Disney, she bought me something special with the dimes, and it was nice to feel like we had finally achieved something, and it was a really nice bonding moment that we'd spend all this time saving up money, and we finally got to get something out of it.
I don't think I've ever seen grandparents as devoted as they were. There were times that we didn't have the money to put them into extracurricular things like t-ball. And Grandma and Grandpa would always, just say, no, go ahead and put them in it. They need it, we'll help. Tradition was that Grandma would buy them all of their Christmas dresses and Easter dresses. And they spoiled my kids in many, many ways. And I am very, very thankful.
She loved being around her grandkids. That was probably her favorite thing to do in life, was to be with them.
Grandma wasn't a typical grandma, soft-spoken, nothing like that. Some of my favorite childhood memories are watching scary movies, and then after the scary movies, she would pretend like she was possessed and chase me around and say, I'm not your grandma. Oh, I would scream and I would cry, and it was such a hoot.
So one of my favorite memories with Grandma was, so she loved scary things. And for a couple of years, I worked in a haunted house. And one of the haunted houses that I worked at, I wasn't working that day, and so I was like, oh, let's all go through it. And so me, Kaylee, Aunt Carol, and Grandma went through this house. And I'm in the front because I don't get scared. And then Aunt Carol, and then Kaylee, and then Grandma's behind her. And Grandma was getting so scared at it that she was almost pulling Kaylee's pants down because she kept yanking because she was jerking and getting scared. And then towards the very end, there's a guy with a chainsaw who chases you out. And Grandma got so scared that she shoved us all into a corner. And the guy who was holding the chainsaw had to back off to let us out because he's like, that's not the exit. And we had to sprint out of there. It was so funny. The fact that this little old lady is shoving all of us because she was so scared.
She was strong.
She was strong.
Feisty little woman.
At my graduation for high school, she starts her speech off and she says, we all know Shane's the favorite. And she didn't get to finish her speech because everyone started, oh my goodness. She's like, I didn't mean that. I meant everyone thinks that Shane's the favorite. You can't backtrack that woman.
That's hilarious.
At my graduation.
My grandma and I always had a special relationship. I was born at a time when she was grieving the loss of her mother, and she always said that I filled that void in her heart, and I always felt that. I always felt so loved and so welcomed into this world from an early age, and everyone would joke about me being the favorite, but I think my sisters also feel like the favorite, and I think that was what my grandma did so incredibly well, is that she loved everyone in a way that made them feel like they were the favorite. But it was definitely me.
She was always really supportive of me and my art. She would always ask me to paint her pictures or to make her tie-dye shirts and stuff. And even if it didn't come out that good, she always made me feel really special about it and that I had done something good.
My kids have a very special relationship with their grandma. Like I said, now they're all in their 20s, and it is not uncommon for them to come just hang out at Grandma and Grandpa's house. It's not uncommon for them to come stay a Friday night and play games all night. Going out to dinner with them.
when I was in college, I got to live with Grandma and Grandpa for a few years, and honestly, they were some of the funnest years I've had. I would get home from school, we would watch Judge Judy together, we would play card games all day, and eat dinner as a family, and just hang out. And as lame as it sounds, Grandma and Grandpa were my best friends. I would way rather stay in with them on a Friday night than go out and do anything age appropriate.
As I got older, our relationship grew in such great ways. When I was in college, I actually chose to move out of the dorms to go live with them and help take care of them. And there's not a lot of people their age who can compete with the dorms, but living with them was as wild as living in the dorms was. Just the amount of laughing and yelling and fun and craziness, and the late nights where we'd keep pushing each other. Let's just stay up a little bit later. Let's watch one more episode of this. Let's hang out for a little bit more. Let's play one more game of hand and foot, because we just loved each other so much that even going to bed and saying goodbye for that time that we were asleep felt like too much. I'll never forget that.
She was feisty and she was so funny, but she was also so loving. There wasn't anything that you could tell her that she wouldn't love you despite of. She was just a safe place, honestly. Or even when my mom wouldn't give me something, I knew that if I asked Grandma, she would give it to me. And I knew that things that I couldn't tell my mom, I knew that I could tell her. I think the thing that I'm going to miss the most is her being kind of like my first line of defense.
Something that's, we're really grateful for, especially in the last couple of years, is since I haven't been traveling much for work and stuff like that, we live really close to Linda and Domingo here in Reno, and we've taken a lot of time to come over with them and cook dinners, and just Kaylee and I and them too, and hang out and play games. And there's just countless nights like that are, they're not special in the moment, right? You just come over, you hang out, you laugh, you play games, and but those are probably the best memories we're gonna ever have of Linda and Domingo too, and we're just so grateful to be able to have spent that quality time with them that in the moment doesn't seem like much, but it really means the world. So
I feel like we definitely got closer as I became an adult, especially when I became a mom. We've always been super close, but I feel like once I became an adult, it was more apparent, because the things that she loved, I loved. The things that she liked to do, I liked to do. And especially when we were living with them, it was really nice to get to bond with her and do all the same things, like her teaching me how to sew and watching the same shows like Walker, Texas Ranger, and looking back on memories, and her sharing mother tips. And it was cool to see that side of her, of not just seeing her as my grandma, but also seeing her as like someone to reach out to when I needed help and advice for things that I didn't know how to handle.
Linda was really the backbone of the family, and I think that really started to show through more once her grandchildren started having kids. So when Kaylee and I had our first son, Waylon, who we lost, she was really there for us in that. And it was really special to see her hold Waylon and be able to love on him the way that we know she's doing now. And so it's just really, it was amazing to see how she had just really brought this family along. It was her little garden, and so she loved her little garden until the end. And so it'll be really, really nice to look back on those photographs and memories and just be able to live those joyous moments that we know she's reliving and living in eternity right now.
She was one of the first people who got to hold Waylon here on Earth. And she's one of the first who gets to hold him up in heaven.
Yeah.
She's the best great grandma. The kids absolutely adored her. They loved coming here, and they would always get so excited and to play in the rocks, and they'd love to try and scare her, and they absolutely loved coming here.
I used to live here. I'd scare her. It's really funny. I live with Dee Dee.
What did she hate?
Um,
And then what would she say?
Uncle Tina. Like when you read to me. She's the best teacher I ever had.
Grandma was really with the kids. She was just very soft and very nurturing and just caring with the kids, and it wasn't really something that the kids were missing, but you can never have too much of that, and so I'm really thankful that we were able to have her.
And recently we just had our daughter Elwin, and we're just so grateful that Linda was around to meet Ellie and to love on her, so that she was able to experience that. We were able to experience her as a great grandma here on Earth, even though it was maybe a brief time. It was still a very special time, and we'll cherish those memories forever. So we love her.
I am so grateful that my grandma got to be at my wedding, and she got to meet Rachel, and I got to dance with her at my wedding. Ever since I was a kid, she would always tell me that it was her goal to live to see me get married, and I'm so grateful that she got to be part of that, and those memories and those pictures from that day just mean so much to me because we dreamed about it together for so long.
I think that's what's neat, is watching her love for the grandkids. Again, they were so comfortable being at Grandma and Grandpa's, always felt loved and accepted. And it has been neat to see as the kids have grown up, their relationships have changed. She was always, her and my dad, always front and center for every t-ball game, softball, cheerleading competition. They travel with us to watch the girls do cheer. Just very, very supportive. And now watching her as a grandma of adults, that my children still, they will tell me, oh, we went to Grandma and Grandpa's and brought dinner and played cards with them, and oh, I'm going over to Grandma's to do this with her, and they have a amazing relationship with my mom and dad, and I know that's because of how much she loved them when they were little, always made them feel safe and accepted, unconditional love, absolutely, for all of us, and it's kind of neat to see the relationship that they had with her at the end, and I know that it's going to be a huge loss for all of us, but especially her grandkids who just adored her. And now her great grandchildren, her little 3-year-old great granddaughter, when we talked about praying for her, she said, she's the best Gigi ever, which is great grandma. But she was an amazing, amazing mom, grandmother, and great grandmother. Yeah.
With such a passionate, welcoming, loving matriarch at the center, this group weaved together blood relatives, in-laws, and friends to form a one-of-a-kind family.
I still remember when I asked her and Domingo, I took them out to dinner to ask Carolyn for her hand in marriage. And she goes and she just has this smile like, what do you think, Domingo? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And Domingo wouldn't give an answer in typical Domingo fashion. And what she did was like, yeah, I think you're the right man for this, for her. And I told her, and I told Domingo that I would do everything that I could to spoil her, and spoil her more than they did, and she did, and she did say that, and she did say that. She's like, yes, you spoil her more than I ever could, or Domingo, and that means a lot to me. I don't know if I told this to you, Carolyn, or not, but when we had that first dance on our wedding day, I danced. You have that traditional dance with the son-in-law and mother-in-law, and she said to me, "Welcome to the family," and she said something to this effect. It said, "Weren't you sad that you weren't able to have sons?" And she said, "No, I have sons. They married my daughters."
Oh, she said that to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, she treated me like a son. She didn't treat me like a son-in-law. And that's something that was dear to me.
I know that Rick adored her as a mom. He lost his mom quite a while ago, and a lot of it is because of the example that she was.
I mean, she wasn't a typical mother-in-law. I mean, I had friends that dreaded going to their in-laws' homes, and that was something that was never an issue with me. I was like, and that's something that I still. It was really really cool to know that when you came here, you were welcomed.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that never changed. I mean, from the beginning to the end.
Something my grandma really instilled in me is that family is not just about blood relation. Family is what you make of it. Family is the people that you choose to bring into your life and to love and to trust and all of that. And so I remember when my wife Rachel first married into the family, she'd say, okay, you call this person Uncle so-and-so or Theo so-and-so. How are you actually related to them again? And after a while, I told her, just stop asking, because I don't know. None of us know. We just know that we're family. And that example was really modeled to me by my grandma. You know, she didn't care who was a blood relative. She treated my dad like he was her son. She treats my Uncle Louis like he was her son. And she treated my wife Rachel like she was one of her granddaughters. And so I really admire that about her. And just that perspective that family is the people you choose to love.
Growing up, I had a really good relationship with my grandma, but she ended up starting to get sick with Alzheimer's, and she slipped away into that pretty fast and pretty heavy. So my relationship with her kind of depleted quite a bit when she started getting sick, and so I didn't really have a close relationship with her in my adult life. And so when I met Corinda and I finally started to meet the family and stuff like that, I had that opportunity to come and meet Linda, and it's been just really amazing getting to know her, and she was just such an amazing woman, and she really kind of, I think, supplemented for the relationship that I was missing out on with my grandma. And so I'm really thankful that I had that opportunity to grow the relationship that I had with her.
Something that always meant so much to me was just how much of an effort that Linda put into helping me feel welcomed into the family when I first became engaged and married to Shane. I just can remember that she always made an extra effort to invite me into the activities that the other girls were doing. And one thing I'm particularly thankful for is just this past Christmas that I got to be a part of the tradition of making tamales with her. And I just remember that she'd reached out and made an extra effort to express that she wanted me there to be a part of it. And I'm just so glad that I got to be a part of that tradition and to build that memory and to get to see and hear from her about how to make the tamales and to have her showing me, because I know that as we continue those traditions in future Christmases, even though it won't be the same, just being able to have heard firsthand from her about how to make the tamales the way that she made them is something that will be a lasting thing that we can carry on as a part of her legacy.
Linda always made me feel extremely accepted. And I remember when my brother passed away, which was, just there was a string. Rick had passed away a couple months prior. I had lost a dear uncle. Paul had passed away. I mean, it was, and then when my brother passed away, I became basically numb. And I remember having a conversation with Linda and Domingo, and I said, I feel like I've lost my family. And her comment to me was, you still have us. That meant so much to me, and I held on to that, and I will miss her so much. She was just an amazing woman with an incredible capacity to love, and I'm just so grateful that I got to have her in my life.
Yeah, Linda, she was just such a joy to be around, and if you guys know this family at all, just how much we love to spend time together and party and throw events with the family, and her presence is going to be strongly, strongly missed. She was just such a joy and a light in everybody's, life, especially when we're all gathered as a family. We'll still be listening for her laugh, during those times. And, she was always part of the fun.
It took 60 years, but Linda finally found her real soulmate, a four-legged furball who brought out the best in her.
The big love of my mom's life was her dog, Sandy. She absolutely adored that little dog.
Sandy, the fifth grandchild. Oh my gosh, she loved Sandy so much.
Get up.
Sandy was her little dog. They got her from a cousin, and she did not seem like she wanted a dog at first. She was very hesitant, but it quickly became apparent that that was the little love of her life.
Get that one?
Dale otra vez.
Give me a kiss.
Espérate.
Give me a kiss.
No.
Give me a kiss. 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 Good girl.
Yeah, I got
That's a good girl. That's a pretty girl.
Hey, she played.
You give me a kiss, her? Okay.
Okay.
And when Sandy passed, she was devastated and started taking her grand puppies overnight and having sleepovers, and she was just involved in our lives.
So they always talked when Sandy passed that she was there waiting for them at Rainbow Bridge, and they couldn't wait to be reunited with her.
With this ever-growing family unit assembled, Linda took her natural position as the life of the party and the heart of every special moment.
There was not a quiet moment when she was around.
She definitely pretty crazy.
She was sassy. She always had a quick-witted remark to say. Yeah, she was just so funny, just so full of life.
Anytime I made a new friend or someone came into my life, or like when I started dating my wife Rachel, the first person in my family that I always wanted them to meet was my grandma, because she was just so special. She just had this fun, this energy, this life about her that I've never seen in anyone else. And so I knew that if someone wanted to get to know me, all they had to do was have a meal with my grandma, because she meant that much to me and she was that influential in my life.
I don't know where we got it, but since we got married, you know, we had a Christmas tree, and you know, we partied, you know, with their grandmom and everything, you know. And from there on, we would celebrate everything, and we would invite. I mean, tons of people.
And we always had people over at the house. We spent a lot of family time together. But we also opened up, my mom was always opening up her home to have other people also come and just be holidays, Tuesday night, whatever. She was always willing to have people over at the house and to be a part of our family and a part of the fun.
Something that she and Grandpa used to say all the time was that anytime the family got together, it was never just a gathering, it was a party.
Mom loved celebrating her birthday.
Oh, yeah, she did. She loved going to eat and having cake, and she always wanted to make a big deal out of it. And wanted to make sure we were all together for her birthday.
And have luau's for...
Oh, that's right, for her...
She had so many
birthdays.
to celebrate her big birthday. She had so many, I think her 50th, her 65th.
She'd have a 50s party for her 50th too.
Oh,
yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have yours?
Turn that camera off.
So my mom loves Hawaii, so that's kind of why we did the luau theme.
Make me feel fine. Tiny bubble, tiny bubble, make me warm.
Carry her.
Yeah, there's no picture. Okay, now.
Okay, now switch.
Happy birthday, Happy birthday to you.
I think some of the things that I'll remember the most about Grandma is like her laugh and her humor and her food. To be honest, she was a really, really good cook, and like in our family, everything that we meet surrounds around food. If we're meeting as a family, there's going to be food there, and a lot of the times, Grandma's the one cooking. And we have her recipe book, but it's not going to be the same as when she made it.
Playing games. We always played a lot of games. Card games, board games, games that we made up.
No. Okay, then draw another one.
That's good. Here, watch out. She's saying that word.
Stupid thing.
We're trying. We understand. They're cheating.
So what are we
These
doing
women
here?
are
Are they gonna
cheaters.
fight? And they're cussing.
And they're cussing.
Oh, now you're saying that.
They're cheating.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet,
This is a cheating family.
No, you're saying I can't.
No, you can't.
Then watch your mom.
What color? What color?
What did you think? Get anything? We
What?
couldn't get simple things like pajamas.
I know, pajamas, a sidewalk.
No, it's a picture of
sidewalk.
Look at that.
But we don't. How come we didn't get it?
House with a street and a sidewalk.
She loved doing things, loved being around people. So if you called her just to go shopping or to lunch, she would say yes. Even if to go see a movie that she had absolutely no interest in, just so that she could be around you and be out doing things and enjoying life.
What Linda brought to holiday events was fun. What Linda brought to
I think just being crazy is what she
Yeah.
liked to do. Just be loud and fun and like to cause trouble.
Yeah. She liked to scare people, but not to be scared. That's for sure. That's what she liked.
Yeah.
She didn't worry about looking silly. It was about having fun and laughing and to be able to laugh at yourself.
I think she liked to look silly. She thought that was the fun part.
I think he really never joined in the silliness, but he would always watch her and
Yeah,
almost
just
like,
watch them
oh my
laugh.
gosh, what are you doing now? And
He
laughing.
appreciated that
Yeah,
in her.
that's a good word. He didn't participate, but he absolutely appreciated and encouraged. Yeah.
He encouraged it.
And it's funny too that she would act all innocent around like friends that like didn't know her very well. Like, oh no, don't take her. She'll throw elbows at you playing pool basketball. They're like, really? Grandma would go, no, I would never do that. Don't believe her. She'll get you.
Or playing nerds.
Oh my gosh, playing nerds.
Playing card games with her. She would get so competitive. I think she would lose sight of that she was playing against her grandkids.
I think she knew exactly who she was playing against.
I think one of the other things that I'll always remember about Linda is just how much fun she always had and how much fun she wanted to help other people to have. This one particular memory stands out. It was last summer when we had first moved up to Reno, and some of us, the kids, had decided that we wanted to have a baseball game down in the field at Charlotte's house in the Highlands. And, I kind of expected that maybe Linda would just sit in the shade and kind of watch from the sidelines. And I remember just being so shocked to see her getting up to the base and batting and running the bases at full speed with no assistance or anything like that. And I just remember I was talking to Shane and he was telling me, I was asking like, how old is your grandma? And when he told me, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that she was still running the bases alongside us and shoving people off the bases and just was fully in the game. And I just think that that memory stands out to me as just a reminder of how much fun she was as a grandma and how she wasn't just one to sit on the sidelines in the shade, but she was there to be in the action and to be a part of making those memories with us.
Carol, can I wear this?
Yeah.
Hey!
Hey! Somebody get me wet.
Let me get shade. Why does this look so dark?
I'm gonna get shade.
Oh, Grandma fell. Yeah, I got it. Grandma fell. Yeah.
Kaylee's laughing.
My mom loved to dance, and at any party, wedding, even just at home, if music was playing, she loved to dance. And some of my earliest memories of my mom is her dancing around the house to her music. She would be out on the dance floor all night if you let her at any wedding.
Take off partner.
Salinas. That's how you got your boobs shaped up.
She loved to dance. That's something that we did. So
Yeah, at every wedding.
at every wedding we had to dance with her. I would get the elbow from Carolyn, but I'd be glad to do so and dance with her. So she loved to dance. That's for sure. She enjoyed that.
She was crazy, like actually crazy. I remember one time I took them to Burger King, and as we were walking into the restaurant, she looked up and saw a banner advertising a Whopper, and so she gets to the counter, she orders the food, and it's more money than she was expecting to pay, and so she starts questioning the cashier why it's so much, and he said, well, you ordered a Whopper, fries, and a Coke, and she said, yeah, but the sign outside says that I can get free fries and a Coke with a Whopper. And the cashier says, no, it doesn't. What do you mean? And so, he's trying to be respectful, but she's not backing down. And so they go back and forth, back and forth. She asks to see the manager. The manager comes. She repeats the line. He says, ma'am, we have no promotion like that. I do not know what you're talking about. She keeps fighting him, keeps fighting him. She drags the manager who works at this restaurant on a daily basis in front of his own store to show him the banner that he put up. And we stood there as she read it out loud, and it said, get French fries and a Coke with a Whopper today. And she real quickly shrunk and paid, and me and my grandpa just died laughing, and we never let her live that down. But that was the way she lived her life, with that kind of intensity and that kind of confidence, that she would drag a manager of a Burger King in front of his own store to show him his own banner because she believed she was right.
Things were not going well between me and Pepe. It was an impulsive thing to do. It meant nothing. You had no. I forgot. You. I forgot.
Having grandma at holidays and things like that was never boring. Grandma always brought a extra element to everywhere she went. She was not your typical fragile old little lady. She was very loud and outspoken and wasn't afraid to speak her mind. Her laugh was contagious, and if she was there, you knew it. There was never a quiet moment growing up, and that's one of the things that I cherish about memories looking back.
Ever the adventurer, one of Linda's greatest joys in life was exploring this world with those she loved most.
We traveled a lot. I mean, a lot. We went camping. We loved camping. We used to go for a whole week, 2 weeks to Yosemite and other, parks. Went to Hawaii. We, different places. Region. The first time we came to Hawaii in 1976. This is where we stayed. Carlota, Linda, Charlotte, and me.
They always went somewhere for their anniversary. Traveled together.
We traveled all around. I mean, not far, maybe within 100 miles.
She loved hot weather. We did so many weekends in Palm Springs and if she had a choice of where to go, it was always tropical.
Hawaii was her favorite place on earth, though. Definitely, I don't know how many times her and my dad went there, but a lot.
And there were so many when we were young. She would let us skip school if it was a hot day to go to the lake.
Lake Paris.
Yeah, she definitely was adventurous. I was blessed to go to Europe with her, and one of the favorite memories will be of us at midnight sitting eating pizza outside, watching the lights of the Eiffel Tower, or laughing hilariously as we were on the tube in London and the doors were about to close and we were all trying to fit into a crowded tube and just laughing hilariously. Or snail races around Europe because we were walking so slow. And so the kids called it a snail race to see almost who could go the slowest. She also was really adventurous. She went ziplining.
Oh, that's right.
Like 3 times after the age of 65.
Yep. Cave tubing, ATVing. She was definitely a daredevil.
She just liked road trips and traveling and.
She loved road trips because she loved to stop at all those little stands and all the fruit stands and anywhere. We would stop every hour.
So one of my fond but also not so fond memories of Grandma was for Rachel's bridal shower. Grandma and I and the kids were in a car alone driving down to LA. It's about an 8-hour trip from Reno to Southern California. It took us 11 hours with stops. And I drove the entire way. And yes, Grandma was a good traveling companion, but 11 hours stuck in a car with my grandma and 2 kids was not the best experience. When we got there, my hands were actually cramped from gripping the steering wheel the entire way. And Grandma's like, "Oh, I could have driven." I'm like, "You never said anything about driving."
Of course you did until you guys got there.
Yeah.
We were going up to Canada and I was taking my mom on a trip, but she didn't know my aunt and my cousin Charlotte were meeting us up there. And so they actually got to the hotel before we did. And they were hiding, down, like hiding behind the beds and stuff. So when my mom and I walked in, they were popped up surprise, and so we just, had a great time being together.
We were very blessed. Her sister Belia and her daughter Margaret and I and my mom, we got to travel a lot together so the 2 sisters could be together. We went to Canada. We went to, I can't even think, we took a European cruise together. And I think there were so many times that my mom was at her best when she was with her sister. They were different people when they were together. I don't know that we're like that. I don't know. But when she was with her sister, like they were just crazy. I mean, laughing, doubled over, tears coming out. Somebody's yelling, "I'm going to pee my pants, stop." But they just really fed off of each other. And it was pretty neat to see how they love to laugh together.
I'm serious! Serious, we do that!
Come on. Here we are getting on the ship.
For Grandma's 70th, we took her to Europe, and it was just so fun to watch her and her sister
I just remember they saw a bidet for the first time, and the two of them went into the bathroom together, and we could just hear screaming and giggling, and then they came out all wet and drenched, and it was such a funny moment, and I loved to get to see her in that capacity, and just seeing her letting loose and having fun like she always did, and just what a light, what a joy she was, and just how fun she was, and how she was just so passionate about life.
Despite all the fun and laughs she had, Linda never lost sight of what was most important in this life, as she spent every day pursuing a relationship with God.
We were at a friend's house, okay? We were drinking, playing cards, and all that. And we were having fun here, like I always did, drinking. And in comes this weird guy. It was Nick.
Domingo did not want to have Nick come over ever.
I knew it was weird because he went to church. And he says, "Oh, partying, drinking, playing cards." But he was kidding. And I says, "You got something better? You tell me about it." He says, "I do." "You do?" "Okay, I want to hear about it." I was serious. So we made a Monday, that Monday that came, we made a dinner in our house, invited him and everything. He says, "Okay." I says, "Tell me about this big thing you have better than what I do." So we started witnessing for Christ and all that stuff. I became a Christian that night. That was 45 years ago, maybe more. And I accept Christ that night. And then she wouldn't accept me because she didn't believe I was going to do it. She watched me all the time. She kept watching me and say, "Oh, you're going to fall. You're going to fall." She kept saying, "You're only fooling around." I didn't fall. So that December, she accepted Christ about 6 months later. And that's the way it started. She got into it right away. And she followed Rick and Charlotte because they were Christians. So we did what they did. Went to church with them, Placencia. And we did everything, in the church. We teach. We had a lot of meetings, Bible studies. We used to have it during the week. And Sunday night, we were church, 100%. Nothing got in the way.
I was blessed to know Linda personally as a sister-in-law, a friend, fellow servant of Christ, and as her pastor. She accepted the Lord in the early 70s and never looked back. Domingo and Linda were tremendous workers in the church. They taught Sunday school. When anything needed to be done, they would volunteer and do it. They would have children home Bible clubs that averaged 50 to 70 kids in their home. They visited in the neighborhoods around the church and beyond for the bus ministry. We had new children and families visiting the church all the time because of their tireless work. Eventually, they started working more with adults and had home Bible studies in their home. They would invite people for lunch after church and have fun times at their home.
And she very much supported him in his church ministry. We grew up in church. We were there all the time. And she didn't do a lot of ministry on her own. She completely threw herself into the ministries that my dad felt called to do.
Sure. Grandma was one of the most godly women I have ever met. And she really showed me what it meant to be a woman of God. my family's been through a lot, and just watching her faith through it all, knowing that it's okay to hurt and it's okay to feel those emotions, but at the end, just knowing that your faith is in God, your trust is in Him, and that's where you find hope for tomorrow. And I think just being able to see that as a living example. She was definitely a prayer warrior. She kind of modeled how effective prayer could be, how much she believed in it, how it really did matter.
I always felt like Mom had a quiet faith. It was strong, and when you talked to her about it, it came across, but she was not in your face with it. But it was the foundation for everything that she did.
I wasn't a Christian before when I met Carolyn. When I met Carolyn, I was not a Christian man. And with the help of family members and with her, and they helped me become a Christian and to become a strong one. Do I make mistakes? Yeah, every day. Carolyn reminds me that every day. But I still follow the Lord, and that was something that was instrumental in my walk with not only Christ but also as a husband.
She never looked back with, when she became a believer, never once doubted her faith. She never faltered, never backslid, never became cold, never said, well, we're just not, never. She was always, going to church, going to Bible studies, always sharing her faith.
My grandparents, along with my parents, have always been my biggest spiritual role models. I'm just so impressed with the way that they've been able to turn their life around and really break these chains of family cycles and move our family into a new direction. And so I always, looked up to them and modeled my faith after theirs. And ever since I was young, my grandma was always pushing me. She was always telling me how much she believed in me, how much the Lord had a plan for me, and that was instrumental in becoming the person that I am today. And so I am so thankful that my grandma got to see me mature into the man that I am now, and got to see me become a pastor and got to be part of our church plant. God didn't have to give us that, but I'm so grateful that she got to be there for the beginning of that plant, and that means the world to me.
Rick and I, my husband, we would do a lot of ministries in church. And at one point we had the privilege of taking over a ministry that we would travel. And I remember talking to my mom about it because she was the one that would take care of the 4 kids and they were little. And I said, Mom, are you sure that you don't mind babysitting all the time? Because, are there things you want to do in the church? Teach a class. She had done that in the past, or prayer, and I remember her telling me, no, my ministry is taking care of my grandchildren so that you and Rick can go minister to more people than I ever could. And I don't think she ever realized that because she sacrificed, and she would at the drop of a hat, Mom, we have an opportunity to go speak here. Okay, go ahead. And 4 little kids, 2 years apart. And how they did it, I don't know. But she was always, would never say no. She would take them in, have fun. They loved going to Grandma and Grandpa's. And I don't think she realized how many people she really did touch. Because had she not done that sacrificially, we would not have been able to do what we did. And so she really did make a huge impact for the kingdom by making her grandchildren her ministry. And she was faithful to it.
So earlier last year when Shane and I moved here to Reno, it was a really challenging time, just leaving behind the life that we had in California and stepping out in faith to plant this church during a pandemic. There were always those moments of doubt that trickled in, and it was always helpful to have the support of the family, but it was especially important to have the support of Linda. And I can just remember each Sunday when we were initially meeting just as a house church up in the Highlands, it meant so much to us to have her and Grandpa making that effort to go all the way up the hill, to be there, to spend that time with us, to be sitting there in the living room when it was just the family who was the church. And I'm just so thankful that, as we look back at those early days of the church, as we continue to grow, that she'll be there, that she'll always be in that memory of what our church looked like when we were just a house church, just a family gathering together. And in those moments of doubt and those moments of wondering, are we going to grow and are we doing the right thing? just thinking about the faith that she had in what we were doing and how much she believed and supported in what God was doing through us is really what's going to sustain us and be something we can look back on as a reminder that what we're doing is what God's calling us to.
We're blessed to know that we're going to see her again one day.
I think one of the best gifts that she gave us is that we don't have to wonder where she is. We don't have to wonder. We know she's in heaven. We know that we're going to get to see her one day. That's not something I have to think about and worry about. And she made it very clear where her hope was found. We can have that peace that we're going to see her again.
Even a story as beautiful as this one must eventually come to an end. As she grew close to her final days on this earth, Linda continued to make an impact on everyone around her.
It's one of the things I'll always be thankful for is this last year in 2020 that my parents spent more weekends than not with me up at our new house. And she enjoyed just sitting outside and looking at the scenery, sitting on the lounge chair out there, listening to her music, either Christian music or her oldies but goodies, and just being in nature. It's and then coming in and we would watch something on TV together and just spend dedicated time that in different circumstances would have never happened. And of course we laughed a lot.
So our last conversation with my mom before she passed away, we were actually just laughing because she told Louie, she said, I just want to thank you, Louie, for always spoiling my daughter like you said you would. And that was the last thing I think she said on the conversation. We just were laughing and smiling and so yeah, that was our last conversation we had with her.
The last thing that she told me was to keep my eyes on God, and that no matter what life throws at me, to just keep focused on God and to love my family.
When I was pretty young, my grandma and I would always talk about the future, and we had this one fantasy where she was this little old lady, and I would pick her up in my car, and I would take her to lunch, and I'd buy her lunch, and we'd spend the day together, and then I'd drop her off back at home. And I don't know what it was about that, but that was our plan for the future. And about a month before she passed, she got discharged from the hospital, and I went and picked her up, and I took her and I bought her lunch, and I stopped and picked up her prescription, and I dropped her off at her house and made sure she got settled and everything. And I remember as I was leaving the house, I thought, we're there. This is the future. This is the end that we always pictured. And it just was this moment where reality hit me that we were there.
We all got to be with her at the end and play music and laugh and reminisce. And because of just the way that things are right now, we were very thankful that she didn't have to go alone. We don't know what she could hear and what she couldn't hear, but we, acted as if she could hear us and just thanked her and loved on her and held her hand and, brushed back her hair and just, letting her know that it was okay to go. We would take care of my dad. We would be, okay. We promised her that we would always, stay close. Like I said, some of her last words were that she knows she didn't do everything right, but the one thing that she was very proud of is how she raised us 3 girls and how we were so close. And she said, now it's going on to my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. She said that, they're all so close, and I'm very proud of that. And she had every right to be. She set the example.
I feel like as far as things that I would say to her if I still could, there's not a whole lot. I feel like we got to live in such a way where she knew that she was loved. I know that she loves me. I know that she was proud of me. I know exactly how she felt because that was the kind of life she lived.
At the end, it was just all 3 of us were able to be in the room together. We were praying over her and just laughing and going through memories. of growing up, and
it was family time again.
Yeah, it was actually a very something I'll always remember, having our last conversation with her.
So a few things that I remember about my mom. I think one of my favorite times would be when I would go out on a date, high school age, and I would come home from a dance or something, and my dad would usually stay up a little later, so he'd be in the living room watching TV. My mom would be in her bed reading, and I would come in to tell her I was home, and she'd say, "Come, get in bed with me. Tell me how your night was." And I would tell her probably the censored version, but I would tell her about my date and what had happened and how I felt about him. She'd ask me a lot of questions. And then my favorite thing was I would rest my head on her shoulder while I did this. And at some point, she would start to stroke my hair. And I remember so many times falling asleep in her arms as she stroked my hair. Again, I'm probably 17, 18 at this time. My dad would come in and say, "Okay, you got to go to your own bed now." And I'd go. And her last moments of her life, we know that we're going to lose her any moment. And I found myself holding her, playing with her hair. And I just remember thinking, that used to be so soothing and peaceful for me. And I'd fall asleep. And that was kind of what my hope was for her, that when she did go, me and my sisters were with her. I was stroking her hair. We were telling her how much we loved her. And it was pretty special moments, and I'll never forget those.
Though she's no longer here with us in person, Linda lived a life worthy of being remembered and celebrated. Those who knew her will never be the same.
Those were some of her last words, is make sure that you and your sisters stay close, make sure that your kids stay close. And she said that was her pride and joy, was how close the three of us were. And that's something that she did right.
She was just really cool to be around. She made you feel comfortable. And that's something that I'll always remember to try to live up to try to make people feel comfortable. Even when she was upset at people, she still made them feel like they were family.
Linda was probably the most Christ-like person that I've ever met. And that's a lot. And she inspired me to just love one another, and the importance of family, and the importance of making the most out of each day with the ones that you love around you, and to make a difference in their lives. And that's what she did. That's what she modeled.
She really taught me how to love beyond your own kids, and used to say, "Oh, just wait until you're a grandma." I didn't understand that. How can you love anyone more than, the same as your children? And now that I have my grandchildren, my kids always remind me, "Okay, but I'm your kid," because there is a special bond. And I was privileged to have it with my grandma. My kids were so privileged to have it with my mom for so many years. And I know that she's going to live not just in our memories, but in our hearts, and the way that my kids react to things and love people. And so much of grandma is instilled in them, and I'm very thankful for that.
I think mom watching grandma be a grandma kind of helped mom become the grandma that she is today. And I think mom definitely models the way that she treats the kids after how grandma treated us as kids. And it's really cool to see that even though she's gone, she's still here in a way.
I owe so much of who I am to my mom. She absolutely was the example of a godly woman, mom, and wife. I don't know how many people know, but when Rick and I were first married, we were not believers. He was an alcoholic. I was probably borderline. And we had a lot of difficulties in our marriage the first 6 months. And we actually filed for divorce. And it would have been final had it not taken 6 months in California for that to become final. But I remember calling my mom and telling her that I was leaving Rick. And I really expected her to say, "Oh, you poor thing, come home." And instead she said, "Well, you can't come home. You need to fight for your marriage. I love you and I support you, but you need to fight for your marriage. This is not what God would want." And that pushing me really challenged me. And eventually Rick and I did seek counseling. We both gave our lives to Christ, and we would have been married 30 years the year that he passed. And so I'm very thankful for that example. I know that example saved my marriage and then produced these 4 amazing kids and grandchildren and on and on. And so I thank her for that. I thank her for setting the bar high and pushing me to that when she needed to, and loving me when she needed to.
One of the things that Grandma taught us without actually like saying it was that family is so important. That it doesn't matter what life throws at you. It doesn't matter what happens as long as you have your family by your side. Without our family, I don't know how we would have survived the last couple of years, because life has thrown a lot at us. And without our family, I don't know where we would be right now. So that no matter what happens, hang on to the people that are beside you, because they are the ones who are going to be there no matter what.
All I ever felt from her was just, acceptance and love. And so I think I will be, inspired just to grow in loving people.
I was lucky to have my mom for 50 years, and the foundations that she instilled in my life will be with me always. To remember to laugh a lot, to dance a lot, to pray a lot, and to spend as much time as I can with family, with friends, and to spend as much time as I can with family and with friends, and most importantly, with God.
When I think about my grandma's legacy and what she's leaving behind and how she'll be remembered, it's not just memories, it's not just things, it's her family. I fully believe that we are her legacy. And so she's gone, but it'll be so easy to remember her. It'll be impossible to forget, because every time I see my mom interacting with her grandchildren and just loving them unconditionally, or I see my Aunt Kat doing whatever it takes to put family first, or I see my Aunt Carol just enjoying life and going with the flow and letting go of worries and stress. Anytime I see Kaylee loving my grandpa and taking care of him and sacrificing so much to be there when he needs her, and when I hear Corinda laugh, her infectious laugh, and she's snorting and gasping for air because she's laughing so hard. When I see Camber being feisty and passionate, or getting up and dancing and being silly, I'm going to think of my grandma, because we are her legacy.
Linda Cortez lived life passionately. She overcame loss and tragedy to build a life that she was proud of and establish a family she loved. As she leaves this life behind and enters into eternity with her Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, she no doubt will be missed more than words can express. But every tear we shed in our grief is quickly followed by a smile and a laugh as we consider the myriad memories we're left with. Following her example, we're lucky enough to have confidence that Linda Cortez always knew exactly how loved and appreciated she was.
Although you will be the one to open the presents and blow out the candles, we will be the ones who are celebrating. How do you ever begin to tell someone who is such a part of your life just how much you love them? You affect no one else's lives like you do ours. You are in our actions, our words, and even our faces. You look on this day with the dread of getting older. We feel only the thankfulness of having been with you another year. The influence you have had on our lives will be seen in our children and grandchildren. We hope that you feel only happiness and love we feel when we say to you, Happy 50th birthday, Mom. And thank you, Margaret and Greg, for opening your home. And I just want to thank everybody for being here and making us very happy and surprise party. You're still going to the hot place.
As you've seen, the story of Linda Cortez is a story of transformation. It's a journey from searching for satisfaction to finding it, to finding life abundantly. There's a verse, John 10:10, where Jesus says that he came so that his followers could have life and have it to the full. And if you listen to the testimony of everyone that you just heard, Linda's someone that had life to the full. She didn't wait until after this lifetime to start experiencing heaven. I remember once when I was in high school, I was assigned this senior project where we were supposed to do a research project on the meaning of life. And it was this big AP project where it was supposed to be the culmination of the whole semester, and it was supposed to be this big, complicated, in-depth research piece. And as part of it, we had to interview people who were older and wiser than us. And so naturally, I asked my grandma, "What is the meaning of life?" And she said, "That's easy, to know and glorify God." And in one simple sentence, she answered the most complicated question in existence. And you can tell from the story of those who knew her best that she genuinely believed that that's the way that she lived her life. And because of that, her family, her loved ones, her friends, we have hope, we have peace. I know where she is right now. And that's the greatest gift that she could have given us, is that peace, knowing that she is in a better place. That's not just a cliche line that you're going to hear at every funeral, but in this case, it's genuinely true, because she put her hope and trust in Jesus. And we believe that right now she's with him in spirit. And so, what can we learn from this life? What can we take as we leave here tonight and go back to our everyday lives? I think there's 3 things that my grandma did that I would love to see all of us do. The first thing is she kept it simple. As I just said, she was able to answer this complex research question in one sentence. And if you knew my grandma, she wasn't someone that overthought. She overfelt sometimes, but she didn't overthink things. She kept it simple. We go through life trying to find meaning, trying to find satisfaction, trying to find purpose and happiness, trying to find acceptance. And the answer is so simple. We're being offered relationship with Jesus that fulfills. And as a result of that, we can come into community with other believers, and we can have that zeal for life that you heard everyone describe that my grandma had. We can have that acceptance. We can build those families when we operate from this place of love. And so keep it simple. The second thing is this. Have a stubborn faith. My grandma was one of the most stubborn people that you could ever meet. Once she got an idea in her head, there was no swaying her from it, good or bad. But when she decided that she was going to follow Jesus and she was going to trust him with her whole heart, there was no turning back. You heard my Aunt Esther say it in the video. She never once looked back because she had that stubborn kind of faith. And it didn't matter what happened. It didn't matter the tragedy that she experienced. It didn't matter the loss, the hurt, the depression, any of it. Because she made her mind. She set her hope in Jesus, and there was nothing that was going to sway her from it. And the third thing is really simple. Go live life. My grandma was someone who didn't wait to enjoy life. It didn't matter what she was doing, even if she was staying at home, eating a bologna sandwich, watching Judge Judy in the middle of the day in her pajamas. She was going to do it like it was the most exciting, fun thing that she could be doing at that possible moment. So many of us are waiting for life to begin. We're waiting for something to happen. We're waiting for a job to line up. We're waiting for a relationship to come into focus. We're waiting for the pandemic to clear up. We're waiting for a sign. We're waiting for a miracle. We're waiting for something. Stop waiting. You get the opportunity today to live your life in the way that you just heard described. And so that's my prayer for you, is that as you leave this service, as you walk away from all of this thinking about my grandma's life and reflecting on everything that you just heard, that you keep it simple, that you accept the message of salvation, but not just that, not just the message of salvation for heaven, but the opportunity for life to the full right now. And that as a result, you develop a stubborn faith. You're not going to be swayed. It doesn't matter what happens. The circumstances don't matter because your hope is fixed on Jesus. And then I hope you go and you live life today. You go live passionately. You go enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. You stop wait, because heaven is here. Heaven is a relationship with Jesus. We don't have to wait until the next lifetime to start experiencing that. I know that my grandma experienced heaven here on earth because of these things. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please continue to pray for our family and support us and encourage us in whatever way that you can. I thank you so much for the contribution that you made to my grandma's life. She lived a good one, and whatever part you played in that, I just want to thank you. We're going to close right now with a message from my grandpa. Take care.
I want to thank you all for being nice to us. We were in the hospital, supporting us with cards and money, and a lot of prayers. I know I felt a lot of prayer, because I felt like I was gone too, which I probably was, but the Lord brought me back. And I want to thank you, and I love you, we love you, and I continue praying, because we're going to need that prayer, yeah. And thank you for everything.